It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Canada Rugby Olympian Pamphinette. How are you doing today?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to start playing professional rugby?
It started for me as I played rugby in high school, and I really enjoyed the environment, the culture, and I had a lot of coaches that kind of pushed me to play at the provincial level, at that level, and from there I got recognized in the national team, and through that I was selected to play at the Youth Olympic Games. And in that moment when I was there, I was in China, and I wore the jersey for the first time. I wanted to not only play for this country, but also go to the Olympics. And that was kind of the debut of my Olympic journey.
What was it like, obviously, going to college and playing rugby in college?
Yeah, so I grew up in Quebec, which is like French province, and for here we actually graduate in grade 11, and then we have this thing called Cégep, which is like college in a way. So I played for Heritage College. It was super awesome. Again, a pretty big rugby community that was there. A lot of supports, once again, to keep refining and learning the sport. And then after Cégep or college, I moved to the West Coast to play rugby for the University of Victoria. I'm still in school. It's been a while, but I'm still in school, trying to like balance out being a full-time athlete and also part-time-ish, full-time-ish university student. So it's been a lot, but I think so many different coaching styles really embraces and collectively helps my understanding of the game.
Of course, what is that like, obviously, being a college athlete and a college student, and also a professional athlete?
It was definitely challenging. Like being at that level, you have to be a performing student to be able to play, but also be able to focus on the sport and make sure you manage your time very effectively and efficiently. What's helpful is that everybody is also a student athlete, so everybody has that understanding that being a student comes first and the athlete comes second. And so it's definitely finding that balance of like not only being a student athlete, but having a life and having a job, for my case, was super important to really space out my time effectively.
Of course, how has it been like, obviously, playing for Canada West?
It's been really, really awesome. I've been on the team since 2016. It's been honestly a lifelong dream of mine to play at this level and to be a professional athlete. I love my job. I get to travel the world all the time. I get to be in community. I get to learn so much different cultures. And I think what I really appreciate is not only the representation part of being a Black woman in this space, but also just seeing all the different people who get inspired by the game simply because we play it. And I think it's cool to how many more people want to play the sport. I think so many people want to learn about our team, and our team has done a lot of great things over the years. We have in 2016, our team was a bronze medal team. At the Pan American Games, we won gold, and many successes. We just recently qualified Cup this year, and so and in a few weeks we're going to the Commonwealth Games. So there's a lot of huge multi-sport milestone games that are coming, and I think our team has always really pushed for inclusion and diversity, and just creating a culture where you can see yourself in sport and that you're welcome in it.
Of course, how is it like, obviously, going to the Pan American Games?
It was amazing. It was my second multi-sport games, and it was like I wasn't under 18 this time. I a bit older, had a bit more years of experience playing the sport of rugby. So that was super cool. And I think what really opened my eyes was just seeing how much goes into a multi-sport games. I think like playing where we played was in Peru, and just learning a lot about the Peruvian culture after the tournament happened, after the games happened. We got to visit around, see Machu Picchu and see all the different beauties of the country. And I think it was also really important for me to see also what was moved and sacrificed in order for our games to happen. It was interesting to see like where our stadium was located. It was a beautiful stadium, but in order for our stadium to be our stadium, you could tell that there was a lot of displacement that had to happen in order for our games to happen. So I think it was really important as an athlete to also recognize how much work goes behind these games, and also like the importance to really recognize, you know, the communities that were.
How's it like, obviously, being a professional athlete and getting to travel the world and see all these different things that not many people get to see?
It's amazing. I think it's such an honor. I think I always try my best to do my research on whose lands I'm going on. I always try to talk to the people who come from there, and be thankful for everything that we have the opportunity to see, to hear, to do. I think especially when it comes to you know, going on someone's land and you know, learning more about the culture, is really recognizing the people that you're seeing, and making sure that along with us going there is that we get to share parts of our culture as well, and sharing, you know, like our love for the sport. And sometimes, most of the time, we actually get to do quite a few community engagements, going to local schools. So just kind of bringing the sport to other places and bringing that forward, I think, is something that I love to do. And we've been able to do that around the world. So yeah, I love it.
What was that feeling like when you made the national team?
Wow, it was literally the best thing that ever happened to me. I think both my parents come from the Democratic Republic of Congo. They're both immigrants. They came to this country. I was born here, but they came shortly before I was born. And they always wanted to make sure that we had the opportunities available for us to do whatever we wanted to do. And I think making the national team was not only my dream, but I think it was a huge accomplishment, or kind of validation for my parents to see that like all the decisions we made has brought so much fruition into our children's lives, and I'm very grateful for my parents for that. And I think what the national team has done and been able to do is really create a platform for myself, and just show, you know, girls who you know, come from immigrant parents, and you know, may have come from a lower socioeconomic background and things like that, that you have a place and you can make it here. It may be different, but it can be done, and just kind of creating that path for people to feel like they can be in the sport.
In the 2017 and 18 season, what was it like, obviously, competing in the Sevens series?
Yeah, it was great. So my first ever international game was in 2018, and I here in Langford. It was a World Series tournament here in Canada, playing in front of my old coaches, my old teammates. It was so amazing. Playing with the best, playing against the best was everything I've ever wanted. And also was a debut of like a whole new world of what it's like playing at an international level. I played both rugby 7s and 15. So my first ever time wearing the Canadian jersey at this level was actually 15s, England. It was also in 2018. Not gonna lie, I was pretty nervous, but it was so cool to be supported and be playing with people who have been playing for so long.
What was it like, obviously, traveling to San Francisco in 2018 for the World Cup?
That was my first ever World Cup. It was the first time my dad was able to come and see me wear the Canadian jersey in person. I mean, my parents always watched my games, but it was the first time that he was able to see me in person. And I share that moment with my dad and my family because, yeah, like, especially when you haven't seen your daughter play at this level and see the crowds and the, you know, the hype behind with a rugby game. I think it's cool to just be cool that like my dad was able to do that. And I remember my dad was like, I want you to give me to score a try. And I made sure that my first ever try was gonna be the most memorable. And I remember I was just so obnoxious, and I ran over a person in the try zone, and it was a memorable event. So, yeah.
What was it like, obviously, preparing for the Pan American Games and also the Olympic Games?
Yeah, it was a grind. I think for different reasons. I think for the Pan American Games, it was a lot. It was a younger team. It was a mix of experience, different array of different things, and we were playing against a strong side in the gold medal match, the U.S. and team. A lot of them were starters and have been playing on the circuit for a long time. So I think for me, it was making sure to just hone in on the work that we did before getting there. And that was just the long hours of training and the strength and conditioning that we put in. And it was definitely just like believing that we can do it. And I think we kind of came in as the underdogs and we won, and it was amazing. And I think with the Olympics, it was a bit challenging because they were coming out of, a global pandemic. There was quite a few things happening with their team, and it was quite challenging, especially given the circumstances. But I appreciate that throughout our preparation for the Olympics, our team really figured out what it feels like to be on a unified team. And I think, regardless of how our outcome was, performance and placement, I think leaving the games, I think what our team was able to accomplish was to create safe sport, to create a pathway for, again, inclusion, diversity, equity, and a place where we can not only include people, but be performing athletes and play to the best of our ability. So I think that was kind of a great new start to that.
Of course, for you, how did it feel to be an Olympian and obviously get that recognition that you made the Olympic team?
It was literally my lifelong dream to be an Olympian. I pretty much picked up all my stuff and moved across the country at the age of 17 to be an Olympian, not knowing if it was going to work, not knowing if I'd have support, not knowing anything. I did my university here. I didn't know anybody here. I slept on a friend's couch here and there. It was really hard, but I think being named to the Olympics, I literally just cried of just happiness, because that was everything I've ever wanted, was to be an Olympian. And it wasn't simply about like going to the Olympics. I think it's like what it means for me. My parents, that I said, are immigrants, had to work so hard to get here, and provide me the opportunity to be at this level and play. And from the Congolese community, to have someone from the community, local, that went to the Olympics and that they can see on TV, that they know, it brings belief in those who don't think that they could be there, that they can be there. And I think that was really, really important, not only for me, but for those who are like me, who come from places like me, and can see themselves in some of the things they do.
Of course, how did it feel to live out your Olympian dream?
I mean, I feel like I think the Olympics was super cool. It was also the COVID Olympics, so the fact that it happened was super cool. I think for me, it was more like the conversations after. I think like living out what I'm experiencing post Olympics, which is meeting people and the range of community of different Olympians and the different athletes in different sports that can connect to that experience. And what it takes to be an Olympian is so hard. It's not an easy job to do. You have to do a lot of work. But I think kind of going back in community and reflecting on that, I think a lot of people really in that. And I think I try to emulate that in all things that I do, whether it be in community, whether it be pushing for social change, whether it be on the rugby field. The Olympic dream / journey is continuous, and I'm living in it.
What were some of your favorite memories and moments in this previous Olympics?
I'd say one of my favorite memories was just, I remember when we first landed and I couldn't sleep because I was jet lagged and everybody was sleeping. And so I went for a walk in the Olympic Village and I saw the Olympic rings and I FaceTimed my parents and I took a video in front of the Olympic rings and I just was like in awe, sitting in the village, just so happy. 3 a.m. and no one was there. And I just was just taking it all in, that I was at the Olympics and that I was there, like my feet were touching the ground. I was here. And I think that was like one of my favorite memories of just like soaking it all in, looking at everything around me and being able to FaceTime my parents and being like, hey, like we're here, we did it.
We're standing next to the Olympic rings. What was that feeling like, knowing that all of your hard work paid off, that you made it to this point?
Yeah, no, it was amazing. I can't even put it into words. I think just the opportunity to share that, because I think shortly after I posted on my Instagram, and yeah, I think just seeing and letting it all sink in was just like a moment I'll never forget. And also just realizing that like I have a job to do, which is like to perform, to play, and to be there. And so I think it was like appreciating, being grateful. And I think like kind of looking back now is that, like you work so hard to be at this level and you get there, and it's kind of like the story doesn't end there. And I think it's just reminding, even now, is reminding myself that like your journey doesn't end when you've hit the pinnacle of what you want to achieve. Life continues. And so it's looking at what's next and looking at how you can not find all of your self-worth in that, but finding worth in yourself consistently. Yeah.
Of course, what does it mean to be a Canada rugby player?
I think it means a lot. I think for me, I think it means recognizing the lands that we're on. I think it means recognizing the stewards of the lands, that's the Indigenous peoples that have allowed for the opportunity to live, play, work here. I'm currently situated on the unceded territory Tongan speaking peoples, and it's also known as Victoria. And I think for me, it's really taking the time to recognize that, the way that we show up is super important. And I think regardless of wherever you go in the world, when you are an ambassador of the sport you play and you represent your nation, your country, that comes with a certain level of responsibility. And I think for me, that's being mindful of who, what, where I'm representing, making sure that I am responsible and respectful. And I think it's really important to represent just all the people that are here. I think playing for Team Canada, again, has been my dream always. And I think with that comes a huge opportunity to continue to celebrate the sport, to amplify the sport, and continue to be ambassadors of change, whether that be on the field of play, outside the field of play, and bridging the spaces where we think that change can't happen. And I think being a woman in sport, being a Black woman in sport, I think allows for those things to do it. And I try to do those things in the spaces I'm in. But I think playing for Team Canada means playing unified, playing with joy, playing with the love of the game, playing with mindfulness and thoughtfulness. And I think every single person that puts on the jersey does that, tries to embody that.
Is it like obviously representing Team Canada and having the Canada Maple Leaf flag on your chest?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think it kind of brings me back to particularly how I show up, and I think it's more like what the jersey stands for. I think the legacy of what the jersey has stood for. There were so many women and people who have worn the jersey before, and just seeing how far rugby has come. In the beginnings of rugby, a lot of women had to pay to play. A lot of women had to, fight for equal pay for us to get paid. And just there's just so many things that people before me have had to do to ensure that I have the jersey and have the opportunity to play, and have made tremendous strides. So I think first and foremost, it's recognizing those that came before me. And there's so many greats in this sport, so many greats on the men's, women's side that have really, really helped the progression of the sport. I think it's amazing to be able to share and have a common, unified, a common time and unified value, especially on my teams. I play both on the rugby sevens and 15s team, and I think we all share the love of the game, but also the love of each other and the communities in which we represent and the communities in which we come from, and understanding the lands that we're on and the nations that have come before us as well is super important. So I think it's more for me how I love the fact that through this sport and what it means to wear the jersey is a connector of different communities, is to connect with different nations, is to connect with different people and different minds. And I think sport has such a beautiful ability to do that.
Of course, how did it feel to receive in the mail your ring with obviously the maple leaf flag and obviously the Olympic rings on that ring?
Yeah, I think it was super awesome. I think it was a really thoughtful and lovely gift by Team Canada. It was super awesome. I've always wanted to have the rings, and I'm glad I did. Yeah, it was super awesome. I was super excited. I was coming back actually from a rugby tour in New Zealand. I was away for a month and a half, and so like to get home, getting the package, I was like super, super excited.
What was that like, obviously getting to play in New Zealand?
Yeah, playing in New Zealand was super awesome. I think the first thing I noticed was how in New Zealand they say "Welcome to Aotearoa," which means New Zealand, where it's the indigenous name of New Zealand, and just seeing the integration of how Maori culture is so visible. And I think just seeing how it can be done in other countries was super amazing. I think we went to 3 different cities. We went to Whangarei, Tauranga, and Auckland. So it was super cool to just see the different landscape and geography of New Zealand. I think that was really beautiful. Yeah, I've been to New Zealand once before that in Hamilton. I wasn't there for a long time, so this time around it was super cool to have the opportunity to see, and just like seeing how normalized the sport of rugby is. I think seeing kids play at the grade level, just everywhere, was amazing to see. It made me excited also, like ideas of what we can do here in Canada to kind of bring the sport, normalize the sport, bring it into the schools and things of that sort. Because I think rugby has brought me a lot of peace and joy, that it would be great to see other people have a piece of that too.
Of course, as a professional rugby player, what is that like, obviously getting to travel the world and get to represent Canada?
Yeah, it's amazing. I think being an ambassador of the sport, wearing the jersey, I think has allowed so many opportunities for great conversation, for inspiration, and for community building. I think the ways in which I've been able to meet so many great people, I think it's also the sport. I think rugby just does that. But throughout the sport, we've been able to connect with so many people across the world, and just, again, share a piece of joy, and celebrate one another, celebrate others, and really see how sport transcends so much than the field of play. It really changes conversations, changes minds. And I think the more that rugby is there, the more that we have the opportunity to share that, the more that, we can create more social change, that people can feel a part of a community. And I think especially in the state of our world right now, where, we're, socially distancing, how do we create a place where we can be socially connected through sports and through inclusivity? So, yeah.
Of course, how is it like, obviously getting to meet your fans and having them ask for your autographs and photos?
It's cute. It always catches me by surprise when people are like super excited to meet me. I think I think I'm pretty goofy and I joke around a lot, and I feel like I play a lot more aggressive and mean than I really am. I'm not soft. I think my teammates would say I'm soft, but I think I'm a pretty goofy, laughy, like jokey person. And so whenever people are like kind of fangirling or like quite nervous to meet me, I always find it interesting. But I think that comes with, the sport is like pretty intense, and so you don't really know how you'll be received. But I'm always super grateful to share and to connect with new people. I think, I love the sport. It excites me as well. And so meeting those that enjoy it as much as I do really makes me happy.
Of course, what is that like, obviously getting to meet your fans that while you're traveling, such as when you come to the US or Australia and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's amazing. I think I like to, I whenever people ask for photos and things like that, like I'm always down. I think I think I rarely say no to things. So I think it's cool to see the reach that sport has. I think it's cool to see the reach that not just sport, but just, you know, the different things that I'm involved in terms of advocacy and creating safe sport and creating just, you know, better spaces for people. I think seeing how that really resonates with people really makes me happy, and to see how far that reach goes is super cool.
Of course, who are some of the people that you look up to in the sport of rugby, and who are some of the people that you're influenced by?
Yeah, I think the sport of rugby, definitely people like Karen Paquin, people like Gisèle Landry, Brittany Ben, honestly, my teammates that I've had in the past, my teammates that I currently have, I think they've always, you know, worn the jersey in a way that was playing on the shoulders of greats, as they say. And they always try to leave the jersey in a better place than it will be, and once they leave it. And I think I try to same is to push myself and to push others around me to strive for the best, strive for excellence. And I think I've always seen that with my teammates, especially coming into the game. I was a bit younger, and I was lucky to be around some of the best athletes in the world as my teammates, and just seeing how they trained and how they pushed themselves and pushed others is something that always inspires me to be the best. And I think, my teammates are my inspirations, and allow for me to want to be better and to be better.
What are some of your future plans in the sport of rugby?
I'm going to the Commonwealth Games. That's happening in a couple of weeks. My goal is to not only go to the World Cup, but to qualify for the Olympics at the World Cup. And of course, go to the Olympics. Those are my major goals. I want to be a 2-time Olympian. That's my goal. And I also want to go to a Rugby World Cup and to win at the Rugby World Cup. So I think once I've, you know, not just reached my goals of going to the Olympics, I want to be someone that will help elevate my team and propel our team forward to be a podium finish winners.
What advice would you give people looking to play rugby in Canada?
That you can do it. You have a space to be here. I think it's super important that people feel as though there's a space for all bodies to be in the sport. I think I remember I was super awkward, tall, lanky, Black girl that didn't really know how to fit in, and I had my afro, and I just felt quite awkward a lot of the times. But I think the sport of rugby really embraced my physicality and really embraced all the parts of me that I didn't know could be cool. And so I think join a club, join your provincial team, try out the sport. You know, you may not make the team, you may not get it right away, but when you do, and if you stay committed to your why, it'll come.
What advice would you give people looking to play rugby for the national team and even go on to the Olympics?
For sure, yeah. I'd say like no one's journey is the same. You know, I moved across the country at the age of 17. I know some people made it on the team at the age of 23, 25, 27. Take your time and make sure that you're doing it for you. Not everybody's going to understand your why, but as long as you stay committed to your why, it'll come.
What advice would you give Olympians looking to go to the Olympics for the multiple times like you have?
I would say that adjusting your why is super important. I think at the beginning it was very much an accomplishment and things like that, and for community and things of that sort. But I think is recalibrating and reassessing why you are still here and what it is you plan on giving to the sport, not only to the sport, to yourself and to those that you play with and for, because I think it's great to have your own dreams and aspirations, but I think again it's leaving the jersey and the sport in a better place when you leave it is super important for that legacy component.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media?
You can find me on Instagram, on TikTok. I have a Facebook kind of page that you could follow me as well.
Thank you again, Puma, for your interview, and best of luck in your future representing Canada Rugby.
Thank you.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon. And you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again for your interview and best of luck in the future.
Thank you.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.